Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hi, Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope. So does everyone remember Scotty Morrison, ScoMo, former Prime Minister Scott Morrison? Look, in the end, I think this fellow was I think it was an embarrassment as a Prime Minister. And seriously, I would like anyone to prove me wrong. That's just my opinion. You can have whatever opinion you want, but I think he made so many mistakes. I couldn't believe how many times I heard him speak and the way he seemed to not necessarily lie, but he did like to manipulate the truth. And some of it was blatant. And you have to sit there thinking, how does this fella think? Anyway, I'm talking about Scott Morrison because obviously we've had this big inquiry into the RoboDebt, RoboDebt inception. So listen, and look, so many people were caught up in this issue with the RoboDebt. Even myself, me and my wife, we were both harassed, or my wife more so, harassed at various times in the past, can't even however many years ago it was now, over this supposed debt with Centrelink. At the time, I remember it first came out, we were living far north Queensland, I think was. I was working as a police officer. My wife's receiving communications saying that she owed all this money for Centrelink because we had children, and obviously because of these payments that the government had made for like parenting allowances. The issue that we had was our children were quite a bit older. We didn't. My wife was working. I was working. We didn't receive payments from the government. We hadn't for quite a long period of time since they were really little. And yet we were being chased for thousands of dollars. I think it was something like 7,000, something like that. And it didn't make sense. The argument for this money that we supposedly owed didn't make sense. And it's pretty stressful when, you're getting told the government, and it wasn't, it wasn't some fraudulent activity. It was the Australian government coming along and saying, ringing you, sending emails saying, hey, you owe us all this money. We're going to take legal action. You need to pay. You need to pay up. And then all these years later, we find out, oh, my bad. It was all unlawful, what we were doing. So this headline that comes out from, it's the New Daily. Scott Morrison rejects findings he misled government during RoboDebt inception. Scott Morrison, seriously, like I said, I don't have a lot of respect for the man. I'll go through this a little bit. Former Prime Minister Scott Morrison has rejected completely findings that he misled cabinet on the legality of the RoboDebt scheme following the release of the Royal Commission's final report. The report states that Mr. Morrison, who was Social Services Minister from May 2014 until September 2015, allowed Cabinet to be misled, but not inquiring why the department ignored its own suggestion from 2015 that using an averaging of income required legislation to be introduced. Look, I just want to go down to what ScoMo said. So in a statement, Morrison said he rejected completely, just puts his hand up, step off, rejected completely each of the findings which are critical to my involvement in authorizing the scheme and are adverse to me. To him, just rejects it. If it's adverse to me, I reject it. They are wrong, unsubstantiated, and contradicted by clear documentary evidence presented to the commission, he said. Goes on to say, I acted in good faith and on clear and deliberate department advice. Okay, this, I cannot stand this about government departments, about government workers, anywhere from the police upwards, they all use this term, we acted in good faith. The problem is, quite often, they will go out and completely destroy, just drag people through the mud, destroy lives, and then they'll stand up. They have the audacity to stand up and say, I acted in good faith. We hear police officers use that all the time. We acted in good faith. The commissioner here in Queensland says it. She loves to pull that statement out. Acted in good faith. If you have gone and just destroyed someone's life, someone's livelihood, you've pulled them through the mud, and it's all been unlawful. You cannot stand behind this defense of acting in good faith. Just frustrating. So he says, yeah, acted in good faith, acted in good faith and on clear and deliberate department advice that no legislation was required to introduce the scheme, and presented comprehensive evidence to support this position. He also rejected that he pressured anyone into believing the scheme did not need legislation, describing it as an offence and baseless assertion. Here's the problem. Old ScoMo, former Prime Minister Scott Morrison, he was caught out lying so many times while he was Prime Minister. Just one one falsehood I clearly remember, and it was to do with the coronavirus, the Charlie Victor mandates that were coming out. ScoMo was telling everyone the government would not make it mandatory. He would not make it. They would not make it mandatory to receive the vaccine and continue working. The issue was, and he would always say, he'd say things like this, and he'd have this stupid little smirk on his face while he was saying it, because he knew he was lying. The problem is that manipulation of truth. He knew very well, it was already in the works, that businesses would bring in these rules themselves, and also that state government. But he would use the phrasing, well, the federal government's not going to do that. They are not going to make it. The federal government's not going to make it mandatory. But at the same time, his pants were on fire, because he knew very well that business and state governments would bring in the rules, would bring in the legislation that you could not go to work unless you were vaccinated. There's a plethora of other lies, just blatant lies that he told. The man cannot be trusted. The audacity of him to stand up and say, I just reject all findings, anything against me, despicable. With this Royal Commission, they have actually had criminal referrals. But the issue is, again, talk about covering up. There's always this, the upper echelon of society, it feels like they are protected. So we've got all these findings, but they've got a sealed section. So sealed referrals of individuals for civil and criminal prosecution means the complete picture still isn't clear. In the report, Royal Commissioner Catherine Holmes said she recommended the referrals not be publicly released so as not to prejudice the conduct of any future civil actions or criminal prosecution. RoboDebt involved the process of data matching. I won't go through all of that. But the issue is they've got this sealed section. They need to just make everything. I get why they're saying it, because it's because of prejudicing future civil actions or criminal prosecutions. But there needs to be a definitive time limit to how long you can have this sealed section in. And hopefully it's only no more than 12 months. They need to get this underway. If they're going to pursue criminal action, it needs to be done. The Australian public need to know. Hopefully ScoMo is held accountable, and he cannot just stand up and put his hand up and say, no, I reject all findings. Hopefully he is pushed along. He is prosecuted. That's my own hope, because, like I said, the man is a liar. cannot be trusted. He caused so much harm to so many Australians. It's despicable. Anyway, that's all just my opinion. Let me know what you think. Were you affected by this RoboDebt scheme? Let me know. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire because nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna stop me now. No more deals to be done. And now my soul just to focus on the goal. And nothing's gonna stop me now. And nothing's gonna hold me down. Got my eye on the prize, gonna sail on the clouds and tears.